No DQ Galaxy. We are live with a recap of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I very much appreciate your viewership and support. Now, let's get into Dynamite. We have the Dynasty pay-per-view coming up in just about a month. We kicked off Dynamite in Quebec, Canada, with Will Ospreay versus Shibata. Now, going in, I knew two things. I knew, number one, this would be a good match with these two guys. And number two, I knew Ospreay was winning. No way Shibata is beating him. Because of that, I really did not have any real emotional investment in this match, but it was good. It was a good match to start off the show. They had a feeling out process in the beginning. Crowd was doing the dueling chants. They did some mat wrestling. They fought on the outside of the ring. Then they came back in. Shibata started no-selling Ospreay's strikes. He delivered a running drop kick to Ospreay in the corner, and then he applied multiple submissions. Ospreay was able to get to the rope one time, got to the rope a second time, then Shibata went back to the strikes. Ospreay started to get fired up. He was fighting back. He got knocked down, and then he kipped right back up, took down Shibata with an enziguri kick, and then Shibata was able to avoid the hidden blade. Shibata applied a sleeper hold. Ospreay escaped. Ospreay hit the Oz Cutter. Shibata kicked out and won. And then Ospreay took him down with a Tiger Driver. Shibata sat down, basically accepting his fate. And he got hit with the hidden blade. Ospreay got the 1-2-3 victory. Like I said, good match. Not sure we needed Shibata kicking out of the Oz Cutter at 1. Now the Oz Cutter will never be taken seriously as a potential finishing move, although I really don't think it is. It's kind of like just a signature move. It's one of the moves he always does in a match, not necessarily a finisher or anything. It's the hidden blade. That is the move that will beat people, except for probably All In, maybe Dynasty, maybe Bryan Danielson will kick out of one. But yeah, good match here to start off the show. I actually thought that the Shibata and Bryan Danielson match was maybe a little bit better, just because I felt like Danielson and Shibata meshed a little bit better together. They did more of the mat wrestling, and I felt like they were maybe a better pairing. But this was still a solid match to kick off the show. We had a Bryan Danielson video package looking back at his career, although it's funny. AEW will always make a little reference at WWE. Wrestlers will even mention WWE, take a shot at WWE, but in a serious video package, no mentioning of WWE whatsoever. Talked about all of his indie stuff, Ring of Honor, and then he was not cleared to wrestle. He came back, showed up in AEW, but nothing about WWE. Now, granted, they don't own any of the footage, but yeah, basically just leapfrogging over that whole period of his career, which is amusing. They had a backstage interview with the Elite, Matthew Jackson and Nicholas Jackson. And they talked about restructuring the Elite with Okada, talked about winning back the tag team titles. They said they are going to right the wrong from one of the first episodes of Dynamite when they lost to Private Party. They said lightning doesn't strike twice in the same place. And that led to Young Bucks versus Private Party. We got some footage from 2019 when Private Party won, which I remember at the time, I was very shocked by that. That was a huge surprise to me. Now, with that being said, I did not think for 1 second Private Party was winning this match. Their stock has definitely plummeted since that second or third episode of Dynamite. I think it was the second episode. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Private Party did get in a lot of offense. They had the early momentum, and then Matthew gave Mark Quinn a Falcon Arrow off the barricade, and Quinn barely beat the 10 count with Zay's help. And then after the comeback, they started to make a comeback. They hit the gin and juice, but Nicholas was able to roll to the outside. They tried to finish off Matthew, but then Nicholas broke up the pin. And then we had some shenanigans. We had a title belt brought in. Private Party ended up using the belt to their advantage while the referee was distracted. Matthew got hit, but then Nicholas put Matthew's foot on the rope. Quinn went up top, missed the 630, and the Bucks finished him off with the EVP trigger, which wasn't their best looking one, but hey, Young Bucks pick up a win. It was predictable. Match was fine, but yeah, did not care too much about it. And then we had Darby Allin, who broke his foot, was in a skate park with Tony Hawk, and they were talking about this foundation for young skaters to have places to skate. It was what it was. Then backstage, Chris Jericho had his proposition to Hook. And this was a backstage segment, not something that was in the ring. Jericho said that he is happy to give Hook any advice to help Hook become a world champion. Hook said he would take the advice, but also he's keeping an eye on Jericho because he knows who Jericho is. He knows Jericho's history. And Jericho said that he knows who Hook can be. So yeah, guess Jericho's going to mentor Hook, and we'll see where this goes. We had Mercedes Moné come to the ring for a 4-way match. Willow Nightingale versus Anna Jay versus Skye Blue versus Kris Statlander. 9 o'clock spot for this match. Mercedes did some commentary. Willow took out Skye Blue on the outside with the pounce. She taunted Mercedes at ringside. And then after the break, Willow and Kris were about to go at it. Skye Blue came in, tried to go after both of them, but she got double teamed. And then Willow ended up giving Skye the DVD on the ring apron. Willow had inadvertently knocked into Kris Statlander, taking her out of the equation. And then Willow pinned Anna Jay with the Dr. Bomb. Mercedes on the commentary, I mean, it was okay. Nothing that I thought was overly good or overly bad. Didn't really distract me from the match or anything. Match was solid, but again, I'm not really surprised by the finish here. Willow made the most sense. She's the one getting pushed right now, so I figured she would win. We had Julia Hart attacking Willow with her TNT title or TBS title. Yeah, it's the TBS title after the match was over to set up their match, which I believe will be a Dynasty. And then we had a backstage confrontation with Dustin Rhodes and the Butcher. The Butcher challenged Dustin to a bunkhouse match for Rampage, and Dustin accepted. Make sure you tune into Rampage for that barn burner. We had a little segment with Tony Storm talking with the guy from Turner Classic Movies. I could have sworn they did this a couple months ago, so it felt like rehash. She wanted him to use the chin up, tits out, watch for the shoe line, and he refused to say the second part, and he wasn't understanding the third part, and then she showed what that was all about. We then had another tag team match, Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta against the Undisputed Kingdom. Undisputed Kingdom very much feels like an afterthought at this point. Match was fine. I thought it was a fairly standard tag team match, maybe the weakest match of the show. Kingdom had the upper hand for a while, but then Good guys made their comeback. Trent pinned Mike Bennett. And then you had the best friends hugging after the match. And then the Young Bucks showed up. They're going to be facing Orange Cassidy and Trent next. Again, no surprise here. Babyface team wins to go up against the Young Bucks. There you go. And then we had Kyle O'Reilly interviewed by Renee Paquette backstage. He was asked if he had second thoughts about not teaming up with the Kingdom. And he said, no, he's going to continue to do things on his own. He's got the momentum. He's going to keep doing his own thing. And hey, look at the Kingdom on this show. They're losing. Why would he want to team up? Wardlow lost. Like, these guys are losers. Why would Kyle O'Reilly want to associate with them at this point? It's not like they're winning matches. So come on now. All right. So let me get to this right now. I'm not sure how many people from Twitter/X are watching this. Probably not many that were getting on my case on Twitter. So Mr. Tito sent in a $2 super chat, says, why are you so anti-AEW, you WWE lover? I posted a photo. The attendance for this show was not good. They had maybe a little bit over 3,000 people in a 15,000 seat arena. It was poor attendance for Dynamite this week. I was kind of shocked when I saw the photo, so I posted it. And of course, a lot of people going crazy over it. People getting angry. Some people saying AEW needs to change and offering some constructive feedback. And there's trolls on both sides. There's people that are laughing, ha ha, AEW sucks, which is not the case. I like AEW. And anybody that's been following this channel knows I've been largely positive about AEW. Almost every show gets a B letter grade or higher from me. Sometimes I give the shows an A. I thought the Toronto show was great. I thought the Edge versus Christian Cage match was great. I thought Mercedes had a solid debut. I have been positive about AEW. And I have posted pictures of good attendance. I went to the Detroit show. I posted a picture. Attendance was good. They had like 8,000 people there. It was solid attendance. So I post when attendance is good. I post when attendance is bad. Some shows are home runs. Some shows are not. AEW is a little bit on a cold streak right now. WWE is red hot. Their business is on fire. It is what it is. Wrestling has ups and downs. Companies have high points. They have low periods. WWE has definitely struggled with attendance. It's been well documented. There were comments on Twitter, oh, you only talk about AEW in a negative way, as if WWE hasn't had bad attendance, which is absolutely not true. I have many times criticized WWE and commented on low attendance and numbers declining. That's what I do. That's what I've been doing for 25 years and counting. So just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody on Twitter/X is watching this. Now, you may argue, this is my response to the people that say, oh, just enjoy it. Who cares about attendance? Why are people concerned with how many people are in the building? Here's the thing. I want to see AEW succeed. I want to see the wrestlers get paid millions of dollars. I think Mercedes Moné deserves 7 figures. I think Okada deserves 7 figures. I think Ospreay deserves 7 figures. These guys deserve the big contracts. But in order to pay the big contracts at some point, maybe not now, if you're in a wealthy family and your father's a billionaire, maybe it doesn't need to be right now, but eventually you need these numbers to go up. They need to be filling these arenas. These arenas are not cheap to book. It's very expensive to book a major arena, 15,000 seat arena. They need to be filling these arenas up. they need their television numbers up, especially if they want a big renewal from Warner Brothers Discovery. And they may get it, and they may be all right. They may be all right either way, but the goal of a business is to make money. And if the wrestlers are going to be paid, you need to be profitable. You need to be able to justify the contracts. That's what happened with WCW. Yes, when WCW was hot, you could justify Hulk Hogan's contract and Randy Savage's contract. But when business tanked, they were bleeding money. And remember, WCW had the backing of a billionaire, Ted Turner. So I say all this out of concern for AEW. It's not wanting to see AEW die. It's not trying to laugh at them or mock them. I want to see the numbers go up for the sake of the business. If AEW goes downhill, that's bad for wrestling. If AEW is successful and they're packing arenas, that puts more pressure on WWE. We want both companies to succeed. That is the end game here. We want both companies to thrive and be red hot. It's not in my best interest for AEW to fail. So when I point out the attendance for the show, that's why. It's not trying to post a bad faith tweet or whatever they want to say. It's because I'm legitimately concerned for the future of the company. Look what happened to TNA. They were at one point on the verge of being competitive with WWE, and they blew it. And now they're a glorified indie promotion. So yeah, the crowd that was there was hot, but it's a continuing declining crowd week to week. They had a few good weeks in Boston and Toronto, but what about these upcoming shows? You can only have Mercedes Moné debut once. You can only have a blow-off Christian Cage versus Adam Copeland match in Toronto once. That's all I got to say about that for now. And if anybody on Twitter or X is hating on me, send them a link to this video and let them actually watch this and have a proper response instead of the typical trolling. And the trolling goes both ways. I mean, there's definitely WWE people that are trolling, and there are also AEW fans that are trolling on both sides. The whole point of all this is to have a civil discussion and talk about it like adults. And we should all have a common goal here, and that's to see wrestling thriving. So there you have it. All right, let's move on to our main event here. Thank you, Mr. Tito, for getting me on the soapbox. We had Swerve Strickland versus Takeshita, which, again, this was pretty much the theme of the show. Good match, predictable outcome. We all know Swerve is facing Samoa Joe, not Takeshita. It was good, though. It was a good match and probably the best match of the show. You had Don Callis out there on commentary. They did the handshake at the beginning, and Takeshita dominated a good portion of this match. And then Swerve started to make a comeback, but then Takeshita took him down with a really hard-looking strike. Swerve was sent out of the ring. Takeshita did a big dive over the top rope, and then they came back into the ring. Swerve finally started to build momentum, and then Takeshita hit him with the Blue Thunder Bomb and won the match. No, he didn't. Swerve kicked out of the Blue Thunder Bomb because whether you're Sami Zayn or Takeshita, nobody loses to the Blue Thunder Bomb except for those very rare exceptions. Swerve then took down Takeshita with a Swerve stomp on the apron. Crowd chanted, "Holy shit." And this did not finish off Takeshita because it's AEW. People are going to hate that line, but Takeshita caught Swerve as Swerve was coming off the top, hit him with a power bomb, and then hit the power drive knee. Swerve kicked out. Takeshita tried another Blue Thunder Bomb, but then got sent into the turnbuckle. Swerve hit the house call, came off the top with the Swerve stop, and Takeshita kicked out. Got to make Takeshita look strong in defeat. And then Takeshita went for another pop-up powerbomb. Swerve countered it midair with the stop, which was pretty cool. And he got the 1-2-3 victory. We had Samoa Joe, the world champion, interviewed backstage. And I guess they're doing a contract signing next week for their match, even though I think they already made the graphic for it. So same thing as WWE. They just announced that they're doing the match at the pay-per-view, but we got to have a contract signing. And, Joe basically said Swerve's not the guy to beat him. Swerve celebrated, and that was the end of the show. Building Nexus sent in a $2 super chat, says maybe Don Callis turns on Takeshita and joins the Elite. I could see that happening. It would not shock me if he did. Takeshita, he's one of those guys I think that they can rely on to have good matches, but I feel like they're never going to really push him to the next level. He'll be the guy. He'll be the guy that they can rely on when they need him, but he'll lose the big ones. He lost to Ospreay, and then he lost here to Swerve. As far as a letter grade goes, we had no in-ring promos on this show, and this is going to be another controversial take, but I like some variety. I want some talking. I want some talking on my wrestling show in the ring. I want some soap opera. I know AEW is an alternative, which, they should be an alternative, but I like a little bit of variety. And I think the best AEW shows are when we have some variety. And that means maybe we have a backstage brawl. Maybe we have an in-ring promo. Maybe we have something unexpected. The problem with this show, wrestling was good, but it felt very uneventful. It felt like if I did not watch this show and just read the results, I would have saved myself 2 hours. Wrestling was fine, but there wasn't much storyline development, nothing noteworthy that I'll remember a week from now. Like nothing on this show I'll remember. Maybe I'll remember a week from now, but let's just say a month from now, I will not remember anything that happened on this show. So I know some people out there are not going to like my opinion on it. It wasn't a bad show. So I'm not going to say it was a bad show. And I haven't said AEW has ever put on a bad show. They always put on at least a solid show. I will give this a C+, which is not a bad grade. A C+ is still acceptable. It was good. It was okay. Good to okay. Hence a C+. But I was not very invested in it. And I do think it was definitely a step down from the last 2 weeks, the Boston show and the Toronto show. Those two shows were hot. And even before that, coming off of Revolution, I felt like AEW was picking things up a little bit, and the shows had a little bit more excitement level to them. This one just felt very flat. I don't know if Tony Khan is trying to experiment. Maybe it feels like they're trying to figure out something that will get the viewers up. Last week it felt more WWE like, in the sense of more promos and a little bit more drama, a little bit more soap opera. This week it felt like they were just trying to do straight up wrestling for 2 hours and see what kind of number they get. I think they're just trying to see what can potentially get their numbers up. I don't think this is it, though. I don't know if this is going to work out for them. looking at this card on paper before the show aired, like it felt like, is this show even going to do 800,000? Like, if they do 850,000, if they do more than the past 2 weeks, I will legitimately be shocked. Like, this felt like a 750,000 viewer show. We'll see what happens. Definitely wasn't one of my favorite episodes of Dynamite. So there you have it. I know some people out there are not going to be happy with this, but I always try to be fair, and I've been very critical of WWE over the years many times. This is nothing new. You know, this is my job. If I like something, I will praise it. If I think they're making a mistake on something, I will call it out. That's what I do. I'm not trying to purposely trash AEW or purposely trash WWE. I would love to praise both shows every single week. C+ for the show. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. My apologies if you didn't. It is what it is. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. And tune in for the WrestleMania predictions coming up next week. Let me plug the schedule. 13 straight days of live streaming coming up here on the NoDQ channel. Starting Sunday with the NoDQ review. And of course, I will be back this Friday night to recap SmackDown as we get close to WrestleMania. Have a great night, everyone. And by the way, Matthew's in the chat room. We're going to try to get Matthew on for one of the predictions videos. So stay tuned. Predictions coming up next week. Much love and appreciation to you guys. Say yes to NoDQ.com. Buy a shirt. NoDQ.com/merch. We have a new Virtue shirt. So head over there. Take care, everybody. And I'll see you all next time.